We've missed you.
Pour yourself a drink, pop some popcorn, throw those wings in the oven, grab any snack.
It is time to catch up over pre-show cocktails, or tea, or water, or whatever.
Before the curtain rises at our favorite place, the Stratford Festival.
Let's gab about the shows of the 2021 season, the plays, and the cabarets.
This is Showstarters
with Alexis
and Ijoma. Cheers! Hello and welcome to Showstarters. My name is Ijoma Imeswam. I come to you today from cloudy Stratford, Ontario, Canada, the ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, the Neutrals. These lands are governed under the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant and Treaty 29. I am so blessed to live on these beautiful grounds, and I acknowledge the traditional caretakers of it. I am joined today with director Esther Jun, who is coming to us virtually from Toronto, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, the Mississauga, and the Mississauga of Credit First Nation. Hello, Esther.
Hi.
Hi. From 2016 to 2018, Esther was the assistant artistic director of Tarragon Theatre. She has honed her incredible directorial skills, participating in prestigious programs such as the Michael Langham Workshop for Classical Direction, the Neil Monroe Intern Director Program, and the Lincoln Center Directors Lab. When the pandemic hit, Esther was in the midst of assisting on the festival's production of Richard III. She returns for her second season, I believe, directing I Am William. I also would like to take a second to give you an immense congratulations, Esther, on your recent appointment as the director of the Langham Directors Workshop and artistic associate in planning here at the Stratford Festival. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's been a lot happening in this last year in this pandemic.
Also joining us today is dramaturg Kamana Ntibarikure. Hello, Kamana.
Hi.
Where are you joining us from virtually today?
Today, I am joining you from the island of Vancouver, so in BC, and specifically in Ladysmith, BC, which is the home of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Tsuut'ina First Nations.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I need to congratulate you as well on joining the festival as one of the new play development associates.
Yes, thank you so much.
A little bit about Kamana. She is an incredible artist. She is a sought-after, trilingual, multidisciplinary artist who is involved in so many areas of our industry, from acting as the BIPOC artist advocate and artistic advisor at the Siegel Center, to the communications assistant at PACT, as a member of the artist mentorship program at Black Theatre Workshop. She is an award-nominated director for her direction of Rendezvous with Home at Black Theatre Workshop in Montreal. And when the pandemic hit, she had just premiered a new show called Maman la Mer, which traveled to the Ivory Coast to represent Canada in early March 2020. This is like the cusp. Wow, that's incredible. The plane landed and then everything shut down?
Almost. It was like we were there living the festival, and then we kind of realized as we went back home that was probably the last theater festival that we were going to be in for a while.
Thank you, Kamana. Thank you, Esther. I'm so excited to have you both here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And now I would like us to imagine, and I've got my floral shirt on because I was inspired by our talk, that the three of us have grabbed some fresh juice from the pulp. And Esther also has a bottle of Pet Nat, which if you don't know about Pet Nat, you need to go and look it up because it sounds delicious. We are sitting amongst the glorious flowers in the Stratford Gardens located in downtown Stratford. The English Garden will serve as the backdrop of our pre-show drinks and conversation about the incredible new work I Am William by Rebecca Deraspe. Originally written in 2017, this translation by Leanna Brody will have its English premiere in Stratford as part of the 2021 season. Set in 16th century England, this play is musical, poetic, and daring. It gifts us with the story of 13-year-old Margaret Shakespeare, yes, the twin sister of William Shakespeare, and the true brilliant mind behind the famous bard's work. Wow. Do you have your drinks? Should we start here?
Ready to go, ready to go.
Wow. I would love to start our discussion celebrating the presence of this play in the season. The production of new work, specifically French new work, is not something that's often done at Stratford Festival. And I would love to hear about the journey of how this play came to be part of the season.
It was very fortuitous, I'll just say. I let me see. Liana sent me the play actually. She sent me a different play by Rebecca called Gamets, which I thought was amazing. This is when I was working at Tarragon. And so I asked her for more stuff. I think I Googled her name and like a little French video popped up for this. And, you know, I'm a Shakespeare buff. And I also knew that I would be heading to Stratford. I think at that time I was assisting on John Gabriel Borkman. So she sent it to me and I thought it was amazing. And I was like, oh, I should definitely bring it to Stratford one of these days. And then, you know, life happened, life got in the way. And this year, and this was very late in 2020, there was another play that I was slated to direct, but we lost the rights. But Anthony was concerned about if we should have a family show, because at that point we didn't actually have a dedicated family show. So I had actually just emailed Liana for another draft of I Am William, thinking to fill that slot. We lost the other play, and I think literally the next day, Liana sent I Am William, and I was like, oh, well, that would be sort of cool. And then the rest is history. So it was like really fortuitous. It was literally within days of each other, these certain events happening, that the play ended up in my lap again, and everybody loved it. And we sort of thought it was perfect for our outdoor season. And there you go.
That's wonderful. I read it, so I was immersed in it. It's such a great script and it flows so well. Kamana, would you like to speak on how your relationship with this play and with Esther, how did you come to the theater and how does your relationship with this play?
I feel like it's a little bit of magic too, you know, like, you know, Esther's talking about how it was fortuitous. Well, I worked with Esther when we did the Directors Lab North. That's when we started buddying up. And I had already read Rebecca's play Gamete. That's when I fell into her work. So I knew of her. And then when I applied and got the job at Stratford, and then me working with Esther as a dramaturg for the play it just made sense because I know Rebecca's work. I'm fully bilingual. I get along with Esther. It was just like a perfect match. And then I read I Am William and I was like, wow, okay. Rebecca, you know, and Liana, like they did it again. And the thing that really, the dramaturg, the thing that I find so fascinating is like when you read a translation, but you can't tell it's a translation. Mm-hmm. Like it stands on its own. Like if you read the play in English, you're gonna fully digest it. You're gonna fully feel it in English. If you read the play in French, you're gonna fully feel it in French because even though it's a translation, it has a rhythm, it has a feeling, and they both have that feeling rooted in those languages. So it's amazing.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. And you also, you stole my next question.
Oh.
I love it though, because it's just, it leads itself into the conversation. But I had been really inspired by the music of this play because it is a musical as well as beautiful poetry. And I often recall the phrase in musical theater, which is when you can no longer speak, you sing. And that really like that, I had a moment, I was like, of course they have to sing. Like, it's so beautifully, she's written it so beautifully, kind of going over that transition from the passion to speak to the passion to sing. And the center of the story, Margaret, who's the center of the story, is dealing with her dreams, her passions, her love, as she struggles to live her life fully in the constraints of her world. And the movement from spoken word to song flows so beautifully. And I was just going to ask about the powerful translation and how the translation has inspired you, and why translation is so critical in terms of new works, or even any works, how that translation can change the meaning. So there's power in the translation of work.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
that, is there anything you want to speak to?
I mean, it's, translation is very important because we want to be able to transmit the story and the themes and the heart of the piece in another language. And I think it takes very specific, strong playwrights that are able to do that. And the thing that's also beautiful is that Rebecca and Liana have like a translating like history together. And I didn't know that, but when I read I am William, I was like, and I heard that they had this relationship, it just made sense to me because it is so well done.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like you can feel the relationship of the playwrights together, how how they rebuilt the story in this other language, and made it as beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Yeah.
transpires.
Yeah, and we can't forget Liana herself is also an accomplished playwright. And she's also
Exactly.
a librettist for opera. So she's just sort of the perfect person for this. And we've still been working on refining the translation, especially the lyrics, because that's sort of the hardest when you're translating, because it's sung, right? So we're still working on that, and we're going to be, doing a music workshop with singers as well, just to further refine that process. But yeah, Liana has such a great shorthand with Rebecca to begin with, and then her own skills. She's so wonderful, and this is amazing. She lacks ego in this game, and she's so wanting to just translate the heart that Rebecca has written, and it's been such a pleasure to work with both of them.
That's so wonderful. I also remember you made a statement, Kamana, that translation is so good that it's like one of those translations where you're reading a play and then you go, oh, this isn't the language it was written in.
Yes.
That's so strange. It flows, and the imagery and the poetry is so rooted in the truth of the language you're reading in and your knowledge of that language, that it's incredible. So it's a testament to Rebecca and Liana. Thank you for your brilliant work.
Yes.
I'd also love to ask, just switch to alternative history, and it's kind of something we had talked about a little bit before, Esther. So historically, William did have a sister, Margaret, though she wasn't his twin. And of course, there's the authorship question that's been debated for many, many years. I Am William offers us an alternate history. To me, when I think of alternate history, it's not necessarily about judging the wrongs of the past, but offering up another perspective, another way into the discussion of the wrongs of history, and in some cases, the wrongs that are still occurring today.
Mm-hmm.
How does this play utilize the idea of alternative history successfully? And what are your thoughts of alternative histories? Do you think that it's a positive form of storytelling?
Absolutely. I do want to start off by saying, like, Rebecca created this 100% her imagination. There is no historical basis for this story. So she is not trying to enter into this debate in any way, shape, or form. I just have to say that out loud. But yeah, as for the rewriting of history, I think it's great. And I think, it sort of has to be done because there are so many voices that have been lost in history because of who was writing it down and who were the gatekeepers of this knowledge. So I think it's essential in today that we I mean, there's twofold. There's, rediscovering actual historical people, which is sort of what's happening right now in France, which is really amazing. And Kamana's going to get to that in a second, because that's really fascinating. And then there's also people just rewriting it in their own ways. And I think Hamilton is a wonderful example of things that are happening. And within this story, what I really love is that it really sort of busts that myth of the single male genius, which is a story told all the time. And it's not that they weren't geniuses, but it's just this allows other people to imagine themselves and see themselves reflected in the stories. And I really think that's sort of essential as we move forward, to invite more people to see themselves within history, and to also know, like, we also weren't there. So how much of it is actually true? I mean, the whole ownership about Shakespeare is, that's really interesting, because, there wasn't much about him written in his time. It really was 200 years later that this myth and this cult of Shakespeare started to rise. So I think it's important to sort of question those narratives and those stories. But I do want to get back to what's happening in France, because it's so fascinating how the French are rediscovering some of the classic female playwrights who've been completely lost to history. Kamana, do you want to speak more to that?
Yeah, actually, so the movement is about female playwrights between the 16th to the 18th century. Right now, we used to believe that there was maybe one or two, that were writing at the time. But as historians and people are digging, they're finding more and more. Like right now, we have a bank of at least 150 female playwrights. And so the French are starting this movement that they're calling le matrimoine, and basically it connects to the idea of what our ancestors are leaving us, but from the women's perspective, because we've been talking about a lot about patrimoine, which I guess you can translate in English to patrimony. How do you say that?
Patrimony, or the patriarchy.
Patrimony?
The patriarchy.
Yeah, patriarchy. But it's really what is inherent. If you think about, matrimony in English, it means getting married and so on and so forth. But in French, le matrimoine is really what is inherited from our female ancestors. And so with the digging, we're finding that there are so many artists, so many playwrights that were thriving at the time. And a lot of people were like, oh, matrimoine, is that a French word that was invented for the movement? And it's no, we're finding out that the word was being used in the Middle Ages, just regularly, but then it was just erased with time. So it's like history is there, but we have to find it. And we have to have that in the forefront of our minds, which is why a piece like I Am William is so crucial.
Yeah. I'd love to throw in a definition just for the audience that's watching today. When I looked it up, matrimoine, yes, is
yeah.
The definition I found is the cultural heritage bequeathed by the previous generations of women. In France, this is, and also there's a rising in Belgium as well, the focus on this, specific to women's artistic and cultural contributions to society.
Yes,
and
exactly.
It's of course, and I think it's relatable to all the world, different cultures, but focusing in on the women that were there. And I'd love to just jump a quote out, because they sent me this incredible article in the New York Times, and it said, if we ignore our matrimoine, we don't change the way we think about our culture. The women who come after us may not leave a legacy either.
That's it. And that's why we're not going to do that.
And how do you think I Am William assists in this movement?
It just shifts the narrative to a female perspective. Like I said, we know there wasn't, we're not saying that secretly, it was Shakespeare's sister who did it. Maybe it was, but that's not the point of it. It's just, I think for me, it's really about the girls who are going to watch this show to know they too can be part of history. They just have to do what it is that they want to do. And, whether, and picking up a pen is so important. Encouraging girls to write is like so essential and really at the heart of this story. And I think, and that is how we'll start to create. I mean, we're in a different age, obviously, where documentation is a lot easier than it was way back in 1577. So, and we're going to, we are going to document them, and these women are going to change the world. And so we are really starting to establish our own matriarchy, as it were, in a way that we haven't. It's sort of shameful, but it's just so great. Like, I have an 8-year-old daughter, and I see the things that she's seeing now that I was like, wow, that's incredible. Like, even I was blown away that the lead of Star Wars was a girl, or like little things like that. And my favorite book for her, what is it? Rebel Stories, Rebel Goodnight Stories. I just screwed up the title, but anyway,
Midnight Stories for Rebel Girls. I think.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's so amazing. All these women in history that I had never ever heard of. It's shocking, and these women have like changed the world on every level. And what I love is that very slowly I'm starting to see Netflix stories about every single one of them, and like that's all we need. I mean, it's changing history. It's correcting a lot of the wrongs. And there's also a movement. There are a lot of historians who are purposely trying to now find all these women and bring them to light. And it's just really refreshing to see.
Yeah.
It makes me think of the, tying in the alternative history and everything, that I Am Williams serves as a what if representation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, representation matters, and it doesn't have to be in just like, putting different BIPOC bodies or putting different genders in different parts, but that we can also do a what if.
Yeah.
Not negating history, but like, what if, and in that offer, lots of girls and also boys or all genders will be able to go, oh, I can do this, or I can support my sister in doing this. I can help encourage those around me, or I can find that passion within me and it can come out. And that's what I find so beautiful about that.
Yeah, and I think it's important what you just said, that while the story is obviously told from the sister's point of view, that William is still really important, because I think it's a great example of how boys can be great allies, like how to raise a woman's voice. Because I mean, even though he's 13 years old, William's the one who has the most privileged position within this play, and he learns that, and he uses his privilege to help his sister. And it's such a beautiful relationship they have in the play. But like, I think that's a really important message for any male watching this, is how to be an ally. So we're not leaving the boys out of the story. We want them to continue writing as well, but also like how you can help the women in your lives. And I think, and also that's just the brilliance of Rebecca. She put all this stuff into a TYA play.
Yeah, it's incredible, all of the topics that she's wrestling with and allowing us to wrestle with as we read or view her work.
Mm-hmm.
Kamana, did you want to add anything? I can see you like doing this.
No.
The Zoom pause to jump.
I'm just literally agreeing with everything. I'm just like, yes, and yes, and yes again. I just feel like the fact that it's a TYA show is like even more important, because we want the youth to feel like they can do that, that they can be writers, playwrights, that they can be allies too. And also to know that, hey, we've been doing this, like female playwrights have been writing even back then when nobody like was giving them the limelight that they deserved. They were doing it. So there's like a strength to that. There's like, we're resilient. I like looking back into history and being like, you know what, we had it then, we'll get it now.
I would love to know, and Kamana, you kind of spoke about this earlier, about your first introduction to Rebecca. What was the play? What was the awakening that you found in her work? And Esther, what did this play really inspire in you and drive you to need to show it?
I think it was the same play for both of us, Gamet. Like it's like if you haven't read it, read it. It's a really good play. It's about feminine solidarity, and it's like it's a boost. You're like, yeah. And so yeah, that was my first incursion with Rebecca's work. And you know, I'm initially from Quebec, and she is a very well-known playwright in Quebec, because she's very talented, very skilled, also very prolific. She writes a lot. So, and not just TYA, she's mostly known for TYA, but yeah. So as soon as like I fell into Gamet, I was like, what? And then like I kept reading her stuff. And actually, I didn't see the production, the French production, but I remember like when it was like being kind of put up, and the director of the French production is someone that I know, like somebody that I work with, Sylvain Scott. So I don't know, I feel like in our world, like everything just like it comes together, right? In like a nice little bow. So here we are with I Am William.
It's great what you said about Rebecca being so prolific in Quebec, and it makes me think of Matrimoine and like how this translation is now going to gift that legacy that she has written already to so many more people and more audiences, and that this is why it's important too to have that spreading of female work and female voices.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other I think important thing to know about Rebecca is that she's a comedy writer, and there's not actually that many playwrights who want to say I just write comedy, but she's really funny. Like, and that, you know, I mean, number one, like I said, I have an 8-year-old daughter, so this being TYA, and you know, I always ask myself when I read TYA, is this an essential story that I need her to hear? And absolutely, I was like, most definitely with this one. But second is, I love comedy. I love directing comedy. It is harder. I don't care what anybody says. And the fact that she can write it so well is like, you know, that's a skill, and it's a voice that definitely needs to be heard in this country. I couldn't help but think of Monty Python when I read it, and you know,
Yeah.
there's
Oh
definitely some homages coming to Monty Python, so watch out for those, because I can't help but throw in some Monty Python at all times.
Like you said, it is a comedy. It's funny. It's moving, and it like when I was reading it, it was like my full body. Like I was like like I could almost see like all the, you know, like their bodies on the stage, the relationship that they have, the roosters, you know. You'll figure it out. The roosters, it's so wonderful. You kind of tied into the next question, which is what awakening or what spark do you hope? Well, what is your hope for the audiences that see this production, all of the young girls and young boys, and even the parents, the parental figures?
Mm-hmm.
What do you hope this sparks in them?
Well, you know, I think we've been talking about it. Is I really hope for the kids watching, especially for the girls, is that they can see that anyone can become a writer, or moreover an artist, and it doesn't matter where you're from. Writing is for everyone, and your voice does matter. I think, you know, Margaret thinks her life is planned out for her, that she has no options other than the role her father and society have prescribed for her, but she overcomes that. And I think that's it's not a new message by any means, but it's still important. Like, you know, especially for many kids coming, you know, from equity seeking groups, it's like I cannot stress enough. Like, I just want all those, you know, girls from all those backgrounds to just pick up the pen and start writing. And you know what, like, if you don't see yourself in the story, write yourself in. Like, that's how we're going to change things, right? Like, just do it, because it's so important to change that narrative and the point of view of what we're, you know, what we have, I guess, been showing in years past.
100% that. And I think I just want people to be curious, you know? I want people, like, after watching the show, to be like, wait, so like, what else is out there? Like, what else, like, who, like, you know, what other stories out there that like I had no idea about? Or, you know, where else can I put myself in? Or, you know what I mean? Like to look into, you know, when we're talking about alternative history and the playwrights that were, you know, erased and all of that. And it's not, right now we're doing it through the arts because this is our field, this is where we are, but it's been happening in every field, you know? So I want to spark that curiosity for people to dig and find.
As we end our chat, I would love to toast. So, Kamana, Esther, what are we cheersing to?
There's so many things. I would like to raise a glass to Rebecca and Liana for writing this play, and I would like to raise a glass to all the kids out there who think they can't write or become artists because they can. So here's to them.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Showstarters. Make sure you head to STRATFEST at Home and check out Alexis Gordon's episodes on the cabarets that will be featured in our 2021 season. Until we meet again, digitally or in person, be well.